kind of a little more towards the bottom that we threw in there as well.
Gotcha. Okay, Parker, that was a great experience. I mean, your photographer was so accommodating.
Yeah, he's great.
Is that me?
That might have been me, actually.
So it says the stream has started, so.
It shouldn't have. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, wow. So the stream has started. I apologize. Event Builder might have done a little bit of a 180 on us. That's okay. George, thank you for letting me hear that. That's really odd. Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you for joining our data platform community call. Really do appreciate it. Just so you guys know, I want to give a little bit of a logistical rundown before we get started. This call is being recorded, and this will be posted to Yammer and YouTube for that matter. So if there are any issues with being recorded and potentially having your name shown, please drop from the call now, but all the information will be available after the fact. It will be posted to the data platform analytics Yammer group, so all your information will be there. While I don't clearly need to do a huge audio check, we'll just make sure that everyone can at least hear me. So if you don't mind typing into the messages pane, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And then we'll get started very shortly. Got a few answers, so I am hoping that all of the audio and technology is working, because that would be my superpower this morning, to make sure everything does what I ask it to do. But clearly that is not always the case. But other than that, I'm going to hand it off very shortly to Sadie and Sri to kind of kick this off. But again, if you guys do have any questions throughout the call, type those into the messages pane, and we will answer those as we go along. And just so you guys know, after the call ends, we will have a few polling questions that come up. So if you don't mind sticking around after we end the stream, there'll just be a few questions that we'd like you guys to answer, simply just to kind of help us with the logistics and how we can make these experiences better. So with that, Sri, I will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Parker. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Very excited to host the November Data Platform Partner Community Call. If you have already attended these calls in the past, welcome back. If this is your first time attending today, welcome again. So, we do this once a month where we talk about important topics around the data platform and analytics area that are specifically related to partners. I have along with me Sadie, who is a co-lead that will be hosting these calls every month. So today we have an exciting topic that we're going to talk about. But before that, I wanted to mention a couple of items that we want to discuss here with you. So Sadie, if you can move it to the next slide, please. So there are different ways of connecting with us, connecting with the community. So if you're a partner, these community calls that we host every month, is one way to do that. So really look forward to hosting these calls and having you with us. But there are other ways that you can also engage with us. We do have a Yammer group. So if you look under the data and analytics section on the slide, there is also a Yammer group that you can register for and sign up. And, we have an active discussion there that we can help you answer any questions you may have, or if you want to share any topics, that's another forum you can do that. We also have a list of trainings that we offer to partners, and there is a training schedule page that you can click on. And then we also host a series of blog posts where we share some relevant partner information. And it's not just for data and analytics, which is the forum that you guys are all logged in today, but we also have the same for other areas under Microsoft workloads. So we have Azure, Enterprise Mobility, et cetera, that you see on the slide. So definitely encourage you partners to engage with us on any of these community channels. So before we start off today's discussion, I also wanted to introduce another opportunity that partners may have, and this is around a boot camp that we are offering partners. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So Oracle migrations is an important focus area for us this year. You all probably have seen the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant. SQL Server 2016 is the leader once again. We are top right in the leaders quadrant for Gartner, both in terms of ability to execute and for vision. And so, we have a lot of customers that are interested in moving over to the SQL Server platform. And we have a lot of customers that are also interested in, moving away from Oracle. And so we want partners that can help us in making these migrations for us. We do have some partners today, but the opportunity here is immense. We have so many customer opportunities where we don't have qualified partners to help us make these migrations happen. So in order to build and help prepare the partners to have an offering around Oracle migration, we are going to have a boot camp, which is basically 4 days. First day of pre-sales and programs, and day 2, 3, and 4 of deep technical training to help the technical folks in your organization understand what is a migration involved and how to move them over. So we have a 4-day boot camp, which is normally priced at about $10,000. We are going to offer it free for our partners. And we have 2 of these offerings that are coming up. One in New York City, that'll be in December 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And then another one in Chicago that's coming up in January. And I'll share these slides and you can see the dates. But any partners that are interested in attending these boot camps, please let me know or let Sadie know. We'll have our contact information as part of this deck as well. We have very limited seats that are open, but it's a great way if you're interested in helping us and build an offering around this. We welcome partners that may be interested in this. And again, like I said, there's a ton of opportunities that we have today that we don't have enough partners to help us in this area. And that is the reason why we're investing heavily in these boot camps where we want to have partners to come in and be able to build these with us. And last but not the least, before I turn it over to Sadie, we also have a set of offers for partners where you can get funding. If you're a partner, you can get funding for helping a customer move from Oracle to SQL Server, or to our Azure platform. We have funding for deployment, post-deployment, et cetera. So there's a ton of money available from Microsoft that we can provide to partners that are certified as an Oracle migration partner. And in order for you to be certified, the first step is to attend the boot camp. So again, one in December in New York City and another one in Chicago in January. If you're a partner that's not in one of these locations, we may have other boot camps also coming up. So also looking forward to hearing your feedback. If you need this in another location, and if we have enough of an audience, we may do this in other locations as well. But any partners that can attend New York or Chicago, this will be a great opportunity for you to do that. And it's absolutely free. It's normally priced at $10,000. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Sadie, who's also a lead on these data platform and community. And you hear her, every month helping me host these calls. And she has a great lineup of speakers today, but I'm going to ask Sadie to first introduce them, and then we'll have our guest speakers kick it off.
Okay, thanks, Shri. Hi, everyone. As Shri said, I'm Sadie Van Buren. I'm a TSP here on the Data Platforms Enablement team, focused on partners. And I am personally so excited about this call today. We have a demo and a presentation about the Intelligent Kiosk, which I had seen at some internal demos over the past year or so. And I'm just so excited now that the team has gone ahead and opened it up to partners to be able to leverage very easily. So without further ado, let me introduce our 2 speakers today. Both of them are on the Cognitive Services team. So Allison Light is a program manager on this Cognitive Services team. Over the last year, she shipped such apps as TwinsOrNot.net, MyMustache.net, and Mimicker Alarm, all of which are powered with the services APIs. and she's currently working on taking Video API to great new heights. She's passionate about empowering developers like yourselves to build fresh, future-thinking experiences and finding new ways to incorporate artificial intelligence into applications. And then Carlos Pessoa is a principal software engineer. He's been an engineer for nearly 15 years since joining Microsoft on projects ranging from development tools to Surface, Xbox, and the cloud. He's currently responsible for building apps that showcase the power of Microsoft's AI technologies. In his latest creation, the Intelligent Kiosk quickly became a must-have app for people who need a simple and effective way of showing several scenarios empowered by Microsoft's intelligence services. And if you have not seen the kiosk before, today you're going to be a believer. So with that, let me hand it over to the team.
Thanks, Sadie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm going to go ahead and present my desktop. And then, Sadie, if you can let me know when you see it.
Still loading. And now it's up.
Great. So, good morning, welcome. Again, my name is Allison Light. We have Carlos also on the phone, who's going to be talking a little bit later about the Intelligent Kiosk. But first, let's cover Microsoft Cognitive Services and how you get intelligence at your fingertips. So you might have heard a lot about Microsoft Cognitive Services. Well, what is it? Microsoft Cognitive Services is a collection of artificial intelligence APIs catered at aiming every developer to build smarter, more contextual apps. And what we're trying to do with Microsoft Cognitive Services is this thing called democratizing intelligence. And what this means to us is that we firmly believe that the world would be a better place if we can understand uniquely the data around us. So whether you're a high schooler writing your first app, or you've been in the industry for 20 years, have a deep understanding of how neural networks, you should be able to use our APIs in 3 lines of code and get started immediately. So what types of APIs do we have? We span 5 different areas of understanding, and the first one is vision. What vision means is all about understanding images and videos, the content and the people within them. Next up, we have speech, so being able to understand and synthesize spoken word. Language, being able to understand text, know what it means, the context within it, and then if it's positive, negative, or neutral. The knowledge APIs, being able to understand how this text connects to bigger concepts as a whole. And then search, being able to use the power of Bing to find anything you are looking for. And there are a number of APIs within each of these 5 categories, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But first, why Microsoft Cognitive Services? Why should you be a believer? Well, there are many reasons, but the first of which is extremely easy. So all of these are REST APIs, which means regardless of your platform, if you're developing a website or building an Android app or iOS app or building a UWP app on Windows, it doesn't matter. You can use all of the APIs immediately. And they're very simple to get started, just a few lines of code because we encapsulate all of that complexity with the power of REST. Next up, they're flexible. So we have a wide breadth of offerings. So regardless of what you're looking for, you should be able to find an API that can give you the level of understanding you care about. And finally, they're tested. So a lot of these APIs are developed in conjunction with all of our data science and machine learning experts within Microsoft Research, of which I'm a part, Bing, and Azure Machine Learning. And a great example of this actually is our Emotion API that I'll be talking about a little bit later. For our Emotion API, we're able to detect the 8 universal emotions expressed across the world, and we actually published the paper on the Monday before we released the API. And so what we're trying to do is how do we get these future forward-thinking ideas and big concepts into the hands of developers as quickly as possible? And then how do we support these developers through the communities where they are at, whether it's MSDN, GitHub, Stack Overflow, or feedback on user voice. And I think it's important to note here that Cognitive Services is just a small part of a bigger story for the Cortana Intelligence Suite. And Cortana Intelligence Suite includes a number of different components of Azure that are made to build a package as a whole for helping you to develop smart, great applications within Azure platform. So with that, let's actually get into the meat of things and the APIs. I'll be doing a high-level overview of each API and then a deeper dive into some. Unfortunately, with 25 APIs, it's hard to cover all of them, but definitely check out our website for full details and demos on all of them at microsoft.com/cognitive. So we're going to get started with the vision category. And again, vision is all about how do we understand images and videos. So within this category, we have a lot of technology centered around people understanding. And the Face API is just that. How do we detect and identify people within images? But a step further, if you've heard about how old, how do we know more about them? How do we infer their age and their gender, if they're wearing glasses, if they have facial hair? This is all what the Face API is great at doing. And then the next API is the Motion API. So taking it a step further, now that I know the people, what are they expressing? Are they happy? Are they sad? This is really good for usability tests or having an understanding of how your user is interacting with a mall kiosk or any device. The next one is the Computer Vision API. So we talked a lot about people, but what about objects within images? Being able to generate a caption that correctly summarizes what's happening in the image. All of this is in computer vision. And then we have a lot of video understanding, so knowing if there's motion in a frame, being able to summarize a 30-minute video down into 30 seconds and produce a motion thumbnail. All of this is video API. And then finally, Content Moderator, which is one of our newest additions, just last week actually. And what Content Moderator does is it allows you to very quickly moderate content within your app with a prepackaged solution so you can keep your users safe and make sure they're not seeing content that they shouldn't be. So I'm going to dive a little bit into Computer Vision API because it's one of my favorites, and they tell me not to pick favorites, but it's naturally very hard. And what you'll see here is very obvious for what we know. It's a man swimming. But this is a problem that's really hard for computers to understand and to know. You need to know the objects within the image, the relation to each other. And you can see here in the green square around his face, this is calling into the Face API. We are able to pull out the gender as male and the age is 28. But the description, that caption I mentioned earlier, was actually a man swimming in a pool of water. And the way this works is we actually use natural language understanding, so generating a whole bunch of tags for what we're seeing in the image, man, person, water, pool, and then we use natural language understanding to build a sentence that we believe accurately represents this photo. And what you'll notice with all these things is we have a confidence value associated with it. And what that confidence value does is it allows you to say, how much should I trust that this caption accurately depicts the frame? So you can see here, 0.78 is 78% confident, and that's actually incredibly high, so I know that this is something that I can trust. The next area is tags, and so if you want something a little bit less formal than a sentence, that's what tags is really good at. So you can see here it pulled out water, sport, and swimming, pool, and water sport. And so it gives me an understanding of what's in a frame, so I could, within my app, categorize it into a different section if I'm doing that, or infer what my users are uploading just by generating these tags automatically. Some other components in here, you'll see that we've also exposed the adult numeracy score using the same technology and Content Moderator that I mentioned earlier. So with one call, you can get this understanding of, is this adult, should I not show it to kids, or is it racy, where depending on the culture of which I'm showing this photo, I might want to have more or less moderation. So that was all about the vision APIs. Now let's move on to speech, being able to understand and synthesize spoken word. And we have 3 different APIs in this category. The first of which is Bing Speech API. So if you need to do basic transcription, speech to text, text to speech, Bing Speech is your guy. Great technology that's surfaced throughout the company in a number of our products and that you can use as a developer. If you want to go a step further, say, okay, I know I have the transcript, but who is actually speaking? That's actually what speaker recognition is great for. And speaker recognition is broken into 2 areas. You can either identify someone, so upload a minute of them speaking, and now I will always know that it's Allison Light talking about cognitive services rather than someone else. Or you can verify. So you just train someone with 3 utterances of one of our phrases, and then we should be able to uniquely identify them every time they utter that phrase afterwards. So it can be really good for a two-factor auth scenario. The last one is CRIS, or a Custom Recognition Intelligence Service. We call it CRIS for short, lovingly, of course. And what CRIS does is it gets at our adaptability play, which is, there's great models that people can use out of the box, but sometimes you need a little bit more flexibility to tune to your actual scenario. And a good example of this is anytime you're in an environment that's really loud and noisy, or you have very specific speech, or a very specific way of speaking. So imagine I'm building a kiosk in a hospital. Hospitals are really loud and noisy. The things I might want to say to a kiosk in a hospital are very different than in a stadium. I might need to say, get me 100 milligrams of ibuprofen, and that's just not something that normal speech algorithms are trained on. And so with CRIS, you can actually bring your own data and train it to recognize what matters most to you. And I'm going to do this demo really quick. This is actually a application trained on kids speaking about giants and what giants like to do. And I'm going to try to play the audio. It might not come through, but you can follow along as it's generated. On the left here, you're going to see, show me giants, living kids. These kids do not smell very good. They smell like dirty socks and one tonight. That makes no sense. And this is sort of the normal speech API returned because kids' voices are very hard. They're talking about things that adults normally don't talk about, and they don't pronounce things like adults would. They're still learning how to form their words, and so detecting that from a speech algorithm can be really hard. But on the right, this CRIS adapted model, you can really see that we're able to much more accurately depict what the kid is saying. Some giants live in caves. These caves do not smell very good. They smell like dirty socks and rotten. It's supposed to be eggs, but eggs is pretty close. So now I'm going to play another example. So you can see on the right, we actually got every word correct. And on the left, pretty good, but dance like large bags doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that's CRIS, and those are our speech APIs. So moving on to language, we've talked about understanding images and videos, we've talked about understanding speech. Now, how do we take that text generated from speech and do something with it? And that's all about what this language category is for. So we have a few basic technologies, things like spell check and web language model, and linguistic analysis API. And what these are is sort of the core types of algorithms that you would need to break down a sentence. So linguistic analysis API will tell you the parts of speech. It'll tell you all of the different clauses within a sentence. Web language model will help you build a autocorrect by yourself. It can do conditional probability and next word prediction. And spell check can obviously make sure that your text is correct. It can be paired really nicely with a search box. So that way you can make sure what your users type into search is correct before you go do a search indexing on your content. And then we also have text analytics API. And text analytics API is a really cool one because we can do a lot of different things here. And what we can do is detect the language between English and Spanish. We can detect the key phrases. And then my favorite, detect the sentiment. So here you can see text, I had a wonderful experience. The rooms were wonderful and the staff were helpful. That's giving us a sentiment of 98%, which is extremely positive. If I do something a little bit more negative, I had a terrible time at the hotel, the staff was rude, and the food was awful, you can see the sentiment is a lot lower on that 0 to 1 scale. It's a 1%, which is incredibly negative. What if we do something different? I had an okay time at the hotel. The staff was rude, but the food was amazing. What do we think is going to show up there? So 76. You can see here that, it's much more neutral than that first positive sentence, but the fact that we ended on a very positive note and we said, not was the food good, it was amazing, it's trending much more towards that positive sentiment than that negative sentiment. So switching back to the language category, there are two more APIs that I want to talk about here. There's translator API, so if you need to do any translation, whether it's speech or text, to another language, you can use our tried and trusted true translator APIs for that. and then language understanding intelligence service. And you might have heard about this one before, lovingly referred to as LEWIS. And again, this is another bring your own data type model. So what you do with LEWIS is it's really great for building bots. If you're working with someone who's trying to develop a bot for their hotel or their business to, check hours and do customer support, what you want to do is you want to use LEWIS to detect what types of commands your users might be sending to that bot. So on the right here, you can see a couple of examples of what someone might say to this bot. Read me the headlines, play yesterday's Daily Show, pause for 5 minutes. And you see it's sort of broken up into this intent, text-to-speech. So it's saying, read me the headlines. It wants the app to say something out to it. And the content of what that thing is the news headlines. Similarly, the intent for the second one is to play an episode. I trained it by giving a few examples of how I might say, play yesterday's Daily Show. I want to watch yesterday's Daily Show. And it was able to detect that, know the content was Daily Show versus Stephen Colbert or something else. And the day I want to play that show of, the version, datetime.date, is T-1 from today. So LEWIS is a really powerful thing that you can use within 5 minutes to train a model that inherently understands what your users are saying to your bot or to your app. The next category is knowledge. Knowledge is all about connecting this content to bigger entities as a whole. So within this, we have Academic Knowledge API, and this is actually a knowledge graph trained on academia. So if you need to know journals and authors and academic papers, this is already trained, and you can use it out of the box to do that type of searching. Then we have Entity Linking Service, which is a lot more general purpose tool. What this does is it actually looks at your block of text, and it tries to find relevant Wikipedia articles within that text. I actually call this my automatic footnotes bot. I can give it text, and then I can go peruse Wikipedia because I have that content automatically linked to me within my text by using this API. Next up, we have Knowledge Exploration Service. So this one is really interesting. It's our bring your own data model for the knowledge category. And here you can actually train your own knowledge graph by bringing in the content you care about, telling us the connections, and build it from the ground up. But if you want something a little bit with less work, Recommendations API is great for providing recommendations on, if I'm building a storefront and my users always buy this product, what products should I surface to them that are related? So when I buy a coffee maker, I know that I can surface to my users, you should probably also buy coffee filters and coffee beans, or you're going to have a hard time. The final category is search. So how do I find what I'm looking for using the power of Bing? And the way this works is we actually surface all of the verticals that you would find in Bing, that web search, the blue links you can think of, all of the images, which are ranked by both relevance and beauty to make sure you're getting the highest quality images and not something that's pixelated, doing video search, news search, and then finally auto-suggest, which you can think about as when I start to type in the Bing search box and it populates with all those results of what I might be trying to search for. You can get that for free with Bing Auto-Suggest. So I'm actually going to do a quick demo of Bing News Search API. And what's really great about this API is we give you a lot of parameters to play with, so that way you know you can target what you're looking for based on your market. So a good example here is football. You'll see that my market is set to ENUS. And of course what's being returned, especially in the fall, is a whole bunch of American pigskin football, just like I would expect. But what if I did something different? What if I was in France and I searched football? Well, now you'll see I'm not getting the throwing pigskin ball back and forth. I'm actually getting content and results relevant to the market in which I'm searching, which is kicking with your foot, European football. So this can be really powerful to pair with your app to bring in context relevant to what the users are searching and doing based off of where they are, how fresh you want the content, how safe you want the content, and a lot more. So moving past the APIs into some customers and how these things are being used today, we actually have a whole bunch of customer case studies on our website under applications, so definitely check them out after this call. I'm going to be talking about 3 of them today. VigiGlobe is a great company that actually was one of our first computer vision API users, and what they do is they actually build this dashboard of what people are saying about you in a social media sense. So a company can subscribe to a stream of data, and then VigiGlobe parses that data to understand the sentiment, the demographics of the people who are tweeting at you and talking about you on the web, and they're using our computer vision API to analyze any image that's tagged with your company to say, okay, what's in this image? Is it safe for work? Should I be showing it in this stream? So great application of the computer vision API that we talked about earlier. The next company that I'm going to talk about is Zero Keyboard. And Zero Keyboard is using our speech API and computer vision API to make salespeople more efficient and effective at their job. So as people are entering in information about what they're doing in a day-to-day sales business, it can be incredibly time-consuming. So instead, they're actually speaking to the system, speaking naturally like you and me would in conversation, and then it's auto-populating their fields based on that speech. Turns out this is much more efficient than looking back and forth at a sheet of paper and trying to copy information in. And so they've had great success integrating computer vision API and speech API into their applications. The last one is Pick Collage. So Pick Collage is a pretty popular app, and they're using a number of our APIs together. They use Bing Image Search, Computer Vision, Face API, and Emotion API, and they can actually bring in these great images that people can use in their collages by saying, okay, if you care about, you just took a trip to China and you want a picture of the Great Wall, unfortunately the ones you took didn't turn out so well, you can do a search of the Great Wall, and Bing Image Search will bring those pictures in, and the user can select the one they want and drop it into their collage. So again, those are just a couple of examples of how these people are using our APIs externally. Definitely go to our website, microsoft.com/cognitive, under applications to see all of the great case studies we have. So I really flew through that content in order to get to the meat of the presentation, which is the amazing Intelligent Kiosk that Carlos is going to be presenting. So at this point, I will hand it over to Carlos to take it from here.
Thank you, Allison. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Let me start presenting my desktop here. I believe it's going through. Sadie or Allison, could you please confirm?
Yep, we see your desktop.
Okay, great. All right, everyone. If you by now haven't seen the Intelligent Kiosk, I'm just going to go through a few of the scenarios that it unlocks. But a brief introduction, the kiosk is a Windows universal app that essentially contains a lot of end-to-end solutions that connect a lot of the APIs that Allison just talked about. Some are designed just to entertain people, some are designed just to plain show like what an API can do, while others actually target into a specific scenario. And a lot of those scenarios have to do with how you extract data, especially data insights from all of this metadata that you get from these APIs. And for this, for the time that I'm going to have with you here, I'm actually going to be focusing on those, the slides about how can you get data insights from all this data that you get? How can you transform all this data into intelligence and into action? So one of the first ones that I'm going to talk about is the Bing News Analytics. And in this app, what it does, it taps into the text analytics service that Allison mentioned, and it's going to categorize the news. In this case, I'm going to actually just do the one that Allison mentioned, football. So what it's doing here, it's going to Bing News, to the service, getting the top 50 news headlines about football, and it's going to analyze the text sentiment on those headlines and sort by sentiment. So like if the positive news in terms of the sentiment, they bubble up to the top, and the list, good news, they go towards the bottom, and I colorize it from green to red. And also I create these top keywords on the bottom left, and that you can see as how could you use these APIs to extract the topics? What are the most common things that people are talking about football? And if you like scroll to the bottom, you can you might see like some of the headlines about a defeat, some terror victims in Paris, and while at the top, they are not so bad. They are more positive. And you can also switch language to get this same output, but from a different market and a different language, and it's going to do the same thing, categorize the sentiment. So you can see how, for example, a company could use this to understand the reviews of customers about their products. They could, for example, use the headline of the review or the content to see if it's positive or negative. Even though they might say 5-star, they might not know exactly what was the thing that they liked the most. Or if they say 1-star, somebody has to go read to understand what was the thing that was actually like so bad. With this, you can try to automate that process with these APIs. So that's one example of where you can use these APIs as building blocks to create these end-to-end scenarios.
And Carlos, if I can just jump in on that Bing News Analytics.
Yes.
Customers love to see the analytics about themselves, and they also love, perhaps even more, to see it about their competitors. So I can tell you, if for partners who do a little advanced research and type in a couple of, if you're going to a customer visit, you type in their name and then you type in some competitors. If you can show that the sentiment is more positive for the one you're visiting, that makes a very happy demo.
Yes, that's a good point. I actually got that. Some folks have mentioned that to me, that when they see this, they want to get their hands on this app just for that purpose. They want to run the big news analytics and sort the news by sentiment and understand how it changes from day to day. Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's very simple to do. Like the source code for this big news analytics is on GitHub, where you can find the kiosk. And if you read the code, you're going to see it's very simple. It's one API call, and you get the sentiment score and the top headlines. Another example where you can tap into how can you extract data from like data insights from these APIs is the real-time crowd insights. So I don't know how well this is going to go through Skype. Here it's in real time. If you have played with the kiosk, you're going to see it's real time. But essentially what it's doing here, it's analyzing the camera, what it sees, finding all the faces. In this case, it has also identified that it's me there. You can see my name and the confidence score and my age. And also it's analyzing my emotion. So if I smile, you're going to see change to happy. And that's also tapping into Emotion API to do that. So while these APIs provide all this data, what you can very easily do in this case is aggregate that data and understand the demographics, like what are the age groups and what are the gender of the folks that are coming to a store, for example. If you have a camera mounted in a store location, in a kiosk near the door with a good frontal exposure, so it captures people like you're seeing here in the screen, you can actually pretty accurately throughout the day understand what is the traffic like in that area. Or if you have a kiosk where you show products, you can be analyzing the emotion of the people and see, are they smiling when they see this? Do they look sad? Do they look surprised? And those kind of things. And another thing you can do is tap into the face identification on this. And then if you have people that you have cataloged, for example, customers that are frequent visitors to a location and you want to tailor something to them, you could entirely create an entire different experience for each person using something like this. Again, this sample is on GitHub. You can find the code. You can see it's a very simple loop that basically processes the pictures from the camera at every second. And it sends those frames to the APIs, to the face, to the emotion, and then it aggregates the data when it returns. And what it does is with all that data, it basically creates this chart over time for demographics, for unique faces. So in this case, it so far has analyzed my face 134 times, but only found one unique face up to this point. Because it's what it does, it keeps those faces in a list. It's called a face list that the face APIs provide. And once you have this face list, you can compare every face that you see with faces in that list, all in real time. And then it can tell if it's the same person or if it's another person. In the case of this demo, every hour, it erases that list so that this doesn't like grow forever. But you can keep it for longer depending on the needs, like for a day and so on. And again, this is not keeping any particular, it's not keeping a lot of information about these faces in order to do that. It's just one single face, the first one that was added to the list. It keeps comparing over time. Again, this one is a very popular one, the real-time crowd insights. It has, it analyzes every month close to 600, 500,000 faces because it's being used so much in so many locations. So people like very interested in the demographic insights aspects of the technology. Another thing you can do very similar to this one here, it's from a video. Instead of analyzing from a webcam, you can do the same thing from a video. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to load up a video, and as this video plays, it's doing the same thing. It's analyzing the faces as it's progressing through the video. And it's creating this timeline for all the faces that it has seen. And in this case, it's not only using the face and the motion APIs, but it's also using the vision API to try to see if there are any celebrities in the video. And that's how it found Jay Leno at the beginning there. And now it has this female, she's 30 years old, and this is how we're tracking her motion. And again, this is very similar to the crowd insights, but instead of being from a webcam, it's from a video. But the idea is the same. I'm processing the video, I'm taking frames every second, send to the APIs, aggregating all the data, and extracting demographic insights and emotion insights from that video. You can jump ahead in the video here, so let me go to another place. There is some other woman here. You can see like how it responds right away. You can also go back in time. For example, you can go back to the beginning where Jay Leno had this spike here in his emotion. You can go back and look at what was that expression he did. So it's another way of using something like this. So continue from that angle, like another demo that shows like a very enterprise-like scenario where this could be used in a retail setting is the mall kiosk. And what the mall kiosk does is it essentially envisions this kiosk in a store where it analyzes the people in front of it and it creates a product recommendation based on that person. If it's a male in a specific age group, or if it's a family or a child, it provides a recommendation. So let me take a picture here, and you're gonna see it detects that it was me. You see my name, things that look like a 34-year-old, and as a 34-year-old male, I might like a nice workstation upgrade. And this is an example of a recommendation based on that gender and age. This again can be very easily configured. This sample is also on GitHub, and you can see, I'm going to show you in a little bit here. Essentially, there is an XML file that does all these mappings, so you can very easily create a proof of concept for a specific customer based on their products and what interest they have, how they want to sell the specific products to an audience. And you can also tap into a different system here. Instead of having an XML content with all these lists, you could actually have create a product recommendation system behind this using the recommendation APIs. And if you have enough data about your customers, about the products, and about the age group and gender of all those people, you can actually track over time what are the things that most people at that age and gender are buying, and this could actually be something influenced by the algorithm, not just like a human being making those choices. And another thing that this demo shows is that you can use the face APIs in this case to analyze the gender and age and make a recommendation. But what if you could tap into the emotion API to see what is the reaction of people when they see this ad? And that is what this bottom, this icon at the top right corner of the camera here shows. When I tap that, it's actually analyzing my emotion response. So if I just look straight at the camera, I'm neutral. If I smile, you see it goes all the way to the right, towards positive. And the way it's doing that, if I click this other button here, you're going to see what it does. It's essentially taking a picture every second and analyzing the emotion in those faces that it sees. So if I smile, you're going to see happiness in that in those screenshots there, and that's how it can analyze. So very easily you could do this. Again, the code is on GitHub. It's just a matter of writing, just like how you write any C# or any language software, like all this, the complexity behind all the emotion and face analysis, that's all abstracted out. And that's how I, for example, was able to create the kiosk and all these demos, because I'm not an expert in AI, but I'm a very good programmer and I know how to use the API. So if you know how to do that already, you can do all these very cool experiences. So going back to the settings here, I promised to show how you can customize the recommendations. And it's actually, like I said, there you can see here, there is a XML list that maps all the recommendations you do. And you can actually customize by name. So at the very bottom here, you can see if Satya Nadella or Bill Gates were to walk into the kiosk, they would get a specific recommendation for them. And that's just based on the ID of that, the name of the person, in case it recognizes the name. There is one last demo that I wanted to show, and this demo is actually a new one. I just finished it yesterday and just got released in the kiosk, and you folks will be one of the first to see it. But before I show it, I just wanted to give a little background on how I had the idea to do it. So this is the Face API Explorer demo in the kiosk that has existed for a while. And what it does, it basically allows you to take a picture and get the immediate result. But one of the things it does, let me take a picture here, is it shows the landmarks in the face. And those are the key points on each eye, the nose, the mouth, and the eyebrows. And the idea I had when I saw that is that, wow, I can call this in real time, and I can also understand what's happening with the mouth and with the eye of the person. And another thing it does is that it tells the head pose, if I'm looking straight ahead or if I'm looking to the side. So I'm going to take another picture with my eyes closed and my mouth open so we can compare the points. So you can see there that the points around my mouth, they got further apart, so my mouth is more round now and my eyes are more closed. So what I did with that was I had the idea of, what if we had, imagine a scenario, you have a dashboard in a car that's looking at the driver in the car. And it could be, for example, analyzing that driver in real time, using these landmarks and understand what the driver is doing. Is the driver looking ahead, or is the driver looking to the side, or is the driver with the eyes open and paying attention, or maybe sleeping, or yawning, or on the phone? So that's what this demo does. So I'm going to start here, this real-time driver monitoring. So you can see as I'm talking here, there is a representation of my face. You can see like a mouth and two eyes, and that is basically following what my mouth is doing. This one I'm processing at 2 frames per second. So for example, if I look to the side, right below the face, there is a head pose mirror that's telling like how straight I'm looking. So if I look slightly to the left, you can see that there's a blue light that goes towards the left, and the system detected that I'm looking away. I'm not looking towards the road, so that's not good. If I look to the right, the same thing happens. That's coming from the head pose data in the face. So you can see this as a way, for example, not just for analyzing a driver, but analyzing someone looking at a window in a store and the advertisement there. Are they looking at the products? Are they engaged? Or they look bored? Or they looking sideways? That's another way of seeing it. So now let me close my eyes here, and what's going to happen is it's going to detect that my eyes are closed for like over 2 seconds if I do that, and it's going to show sleeping on the screen, and it's going to also beep. I don't know if the beep is going to come through, but I'm just going to do it here and then see what you folks see. There you go. It detected well there. So let me try to do a yawn now, because in this case, before I went to sleep, I probably was yawning. I was feeling a little tired. So what I do here, I just use those face landmarks, and I track them over time. And then if I see, for example, that the mouth is very big for a period of time, that could be an indication that the driver is yawning. So let me try to do that here. There you go. It detected there after like a couple seconds of yawning. And right on top, I actually didn't touch on this, but under driver identification, you can see my name there as well. And this actually is a good point to bring the Uber driver ID check scenario that Microsoft is doing with Uber, where we are asking drivers to authenticate by taking a selfie. This is essentially showing how that same scenario works, because I have trained the model behind the Face API that I'm using here to know me. In this case, it would know the driver. So if I'm not in the system, it would say unknown male or female. So that's about the Face API. But what if I tapped into the Vision API and also try to see, like, what is the driver doing in front of the wheel? Is the driver driving, or is the driver holding a phone, for example, or eating? So if I enable this knob here at the bottom for activities, the demo is now going to be using the Vision API as well. And it's going to try to see what the driver is doing, and it's going to describe it with there's a confidence level. So if I pick up my phone and then I hold it to my ear here, you can see there the description is all about phone. It says it's a man smiling and talking on the phone, and it's a man talking on the phone. So essentially, you could see how the Vision API can bring something like this to life. And I put my phone down, and after it updates here, it's not talking about a phone anymore. This would be similar. The same scenario could be possible as well if I was eating. If I was holding a banana and eating, I have seen the description come up and say it's a man eating a banana, and so on. So it's another example of how you can use the APIs to derive insights. In this case, about how attentive someone is, and what activities they are doing. I think with that I have covered like the key scenarios. I wanted to save some time for Alison to close on some next steps that everybody can take on how to get on board with the services, and how to use the kiosk and how to get it. I think Sandy covered this really well in the blog post with the links on how you can get the source code for the kiosk. But Alison can probably cover some more. And I'm open for questions too, if folks have any questions. Please feel free.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlos. That was great. I really love the driver demo. I think that one is one of my favorites for sure.
Oh, great.
All right, so I'm going to switch back to my desktop. Sadie, let me know when you can see it.
Got it.
Cool. So just to recap, I know we've thrown a lot of information at you today, so thank you so much for listening. We have a bunch of resources that you can go explore. Definitely check out our pricing and our documentation on our website. We have a bunch of client SDKs, both things that we've created and things that the community have created that you can check out. And please, join our community. We're on Stack Overflow, MSDN, and User Voice, which we use for feedback and ideas. So if there's something that you want to see in our APIs that we don't do today, definitely let us know. We monitor this all the time. And just to recap, why Microsoft Cognitive Services? Extremely easy to use. It works across platforms in just 3 lines of code. It's built in conjunction with a lot of researchers and data scientists, well tested, and so definitely try it out. Check out our applications gallery for all of the customers that are using us today and their case studies. And best of all, which we haven't mentioned yet, all of the APIs have free tiers. You can get started for free on Microsoft.com/cognitive. All you need is an email, and we'll give you a free key so you can build great experiences like the kiosk. With that, we have about 5 minutes for questions between myself and Carlos.
I am watching the chat window. No questions yet, but feel free, folks. So I'll mention too, I just put out a link. That is where the content from today's presentation will be stored later on today. And that is our Yammer group, and there you can also find instructions for setting up your own version of the kiosk. Those are posted in detail there. So take a look later. The slides aren't up yet, but we'll get them up by the end of the day, hopefully. Okay, and if there are no questions, I think we can close here. So, like I said, content will be up. Oh wait, hold on, we do have one. Okay, so from Piyush Prakash, or Prakash Piyush, we have, are there guidelines or best practices on how to gracefully handle loss of internet connection? I assume that's during, while demo is happening.
Yeah, so Carlos might have some thoughts on how to do this. We don't have any published, guidelines or best practices, but we do have an error message when you are experiencing no connection, I believe. Carlos, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, so in terms of the kiosk itself, yes, the kiosk does provide an error message when it stops being able to talk to the APIs. During some of the demos, that is disabled. Those messages are disabled by default because a lot of those demos, they are displayed in a public setting where you don't necessarily want customers to see that pop-up. But if you're like trying to investigate, if you go to the settings page, there is a place where you can enable a switch or you can enable the kiosk to show API errors, and then you're going to see them. If the question is not about the kiosk, but just about development in general, like how you'd handle that, I would add that aside from the handling internet connection loss, you also likely have to handle throttling limitations around these APIs, because everybody who uses them, they have a quota. You can only call them so many times per minute or per second. And it's a very similar workflow because you're going to get an error in the middle of your app as it's running, and you need to handle it. And in terms of best practices there, like for the throttling, you very likely what the kiosk does, you can see on GitHub, it basically takes a small delay when it detects throttling, and then it tries again after like some time, and then it delays a little more, and then it tries again. If it tried that for 5-6 times and it still didn't work, it then displays a message that says, hey, you're being throttled with your API keys that you're using. So for internet connection loss, I would suggest a similar pattern. Like if you detect that you don't have internet, you get that error, maybe try a few times with some delay, and then after 6 attempts, then display a message to the customer of your app, to the consumer, saying, hey, it looks like you don't have internet connection. That's what I would suggest, just so that it's a seamless experience, because sometimes if you're using this from a phone, it might be normal to actually lose from time to time.
Okay, Thank you both. Another question has come up. Do any of the apps run on-prem versus Azure? For example, in a farm scenario when there's not good Wi-Fi.
So right now, all of our APIs are Azure cloud-based. We don't have anything offline or on-prem. It's something we're thinking about, and we're really looking for customer demand. So if it is something you're looking for, I highly recommend you post it on our user voice website. The link will be in the slides. So to recap, not now, but let us know, and it is something we're thinking about.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I think that's all the questions we have. So I want to thank our presenters so much for presenting today. As I mentioned, we'll have all the content up later today on the Yammer site. And we will have calls like this one a month for the Data Platforms community. So we thank you all so much for joining today, and we really appreciate it.